Finding cars. Resale value. Resale value. You don't know what it is till you have it. When I was younger, buying and selling cars, driving them, I quickly learned cars that were in high demand and cars that kept their value. At the time, I didn't know why. I couldn't tell. I could not tell because I'd drive one car or look at one car. It was cool. It was fun. It was the same thing I was looking at another car. It was cool. It was fun. You know, but one car kept more value in reselling it than another car. People just looked at it differently. And I really struggled with that because I'm like, well, they're kind of the same car. Why do people want this one more than that one? Now, I don't determine the value. I don't. The market determines the value. What? And the market isn't some mysterious thing. It isn't some, you know, group of people hidden in a room deciding numbers on cars. That's called MSRP. That's what happens with MSRP. But, out there buying and selling cars, you know, it's the holy grail, I guess. It's the holy grail of buying and selling cars. It's finding cars that keep their value for whatever mysterious reason. Like as a kid, I collected comics, and it has nothing to do with cars other than the fact that you would look for these certain comics, I guess, and you try to follow a system of buying certain things, limited editions, different covers, one-time appearances of characters, a storyline that was popular and left the shelves right away. And you try to find those comics, or you try to see those comics as they're coming out on the market and buy them up and store them and then have them retain value or gain value over time, right? I went through a buying selling years of my younger years when I got into driving. And I like driving European vehicles. I did not like driving domestic vehicles, and I was not quite sold on Japanese cars. But there seemed to be a thing for Japanese cars and European cars. Get the right ones. People would pay more money. There is a culture for that kind of driving car. There is. I got into Volkswagens and quickly learned, and Volvos. I had a Volvo, but quickly learned that people, I don't know, I'm not going to say treasure those cars, but they are willing to pay more money for them. So the cars end up, they keep their value. They keep their value. Now, mind you, I was buying cars, so it would be the 80s, cars 10 years old. And, depreciation happens and then it bottoms out and it levels out. And it was at about 10 years old at the time where cars had literally bottomed out on price, and you could, if you bought it for 2000 bucks, if you bought it for $2,000, you could drive it for a year or 2 years put more mileage on it, put more wear and tear on it. I wouldn't even change tires. I would just put oil and gas in it and turn around and resell it for the same price that I bought it for, and no problem. I wasn't asking too much or anything, right? Like, so I kind of had this perpetual thing where I could spend somewhere around $2,000, give or take 500, get into a cool car, fun car, drive it for a year, 2 years, turn around and sell it for the same price that I bought it for. And it wasn't a big mystery. It wasn't a great big, you know, I don't know. It wasn't a underhanded game or anything. It was just that's what stuff was selling for. Oh, my windshield's all foggy. Oh, that's just the mist. Okay, it's not inside. So that's kind of what I learned about resale value. Whereas I could go buy, and I did this a few times. My parents also did this too. Like, we bought American cars, and we'd turn around and we'd have to sell it for less, no matter what we bought it for. Just the depreciation on them. I think they would bottom out at like below $1,000, except for the rare ones. Like Fieros at the time were a thing, and those kept their high prices. They weren't 10 years old yet. They were an 80s car, and the odd one would come by, and people would buy them, and I would watch this happen, and they'd be able to resell them. But those were like one-off American cars. Yeah, I couldn't just go out and buy a generic American car and keep, for a high price, and then keep that price when I tried to resell it a couple years later. It didn't work out that way, and they were kind of crappy to drive. I grew up on European cars, but I got into the Japanese cars with my friends. It's like, hey, you should try these Toyotas. You should do this. You do that, and you could buy almost any Toyota. You could buy almost any Honda at the time. It didn't matter what family car, sports car, and you could turn around and resell it again for even more money. Even more money. I mean, a lot of times you get these cars and they are dirty. People don't keep them clean, and I'm a car clean person, and I get these cars, and all I'd really do is clean them up, clean the engine bay up, clean the trunk up, clean things, and I'd turn around and resell it for more money after having my driving fun in it. Going, okay, I'm done with this car. It's cool. It's had these features, sort of thing. Sometimes even with extra body damage, I put body damage on these things and turn around and resell it for more money because people people would recognize the value in these Japanese cars. And the value was in the reliability and the cheap maintenance, I think. Because they weren't hot. They weren't really good looking or anything. I mean, they were 80s Japanese cars. Except like you get the Celikas and the Supras sort of thing, right? But otherwise, they're all Econo boxes. So when I started buying real cars as a grown up, and I'd have to be making, a substantial purchase that included like payments. This is why I never understood tuning, because these guys would do these cars, and the money you put in, you'd never get it back out when you sold the car. In a very rare circumstance, you would if you got the car for super cheap, and it just never really worked out, right? The fun, what I found out about tuning culture and the people who like to tune was that the thrill was in building the car and changing it to make it better. And that was the thrill. And being able to resell it and somebody buy it was, the justification and the payoff. And somebody really liked what they did. I got that about tuner culture. But when I started looking for cars as like a grown up with a grown up mindset, going, oh, numbers, numbers have to make sense, right? Cars, and growing up, I learned cars are a money pit. Cars are a money pit, except a few exceptions. And I learned that with Honda. I learned that with Honda. All my Hondas that I've owned, even no, and the Toyota that we've owned, yeah, yeah, the Toyota that my girlfriend owns. I was amazed actually because, but I mean, back in the day, the little Toyota thing that she had was a big deal. But I really learned it with Hondas as a grown up. Going, I could buy this car, put it on payments. Within a year and a half, 2 years, the value of the car, the resale value of the car, was worth more than I had left owing on it, which went against everything else in the car industry, like 90% of stuff in the car industry. So if you've been buying Fords and Chevys and things like that, Hyundais and everything else except a Honda, Toyota, or Subaru, it did not matter how long of a term you put it on. It didn't matter. The resale value of the cars never went above what you had owing on it. My buddy was a finance manager at Honda at the time. It was my first brand new car that I was buying. I was buying it for my wife, and he's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. Honda's 2 years out. Whatever you owe on it, you can sell it for more." That actually got me into leasing, and it made sense leasing. The rest of the cars in the world, they didn't make sense leasing because the value of the car never. And then the thing was is that it wasn't a one-off Honda thing. I bought a Honda Civic Si. Like, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a fancy car. And I'm like, here, she crashed hers. I'm like, let's go buy another one. I'll put you in another one. And that's what we did. And we took the Honda, made some payments on it for a couple of years, and then had a baby and needed a minivan, and traded her little Civic in for a minivan. And I had wrecked it. I shouldn't say wrecked it, but I super curved it in the wintertime. Jumped a curb, took out a sign, the whole thing. It was fucking hilarious. Trying to take it to the car wash and clean it up, but the, the road going to the car wash was like pure ice. There was no sand. There was nothing. It was like, oh, okay, I was doing 60. Like nothing. It was just one of those things that happens in life, right? Like you're not doing anything wrong, but everything worked out wrong, and I ended up damaging the right front corner. Um, and I never got it fixed. I didn't. I'm like, I'll just drive it. I'll keep driving it. I don't care. It's a Toyota or whatever Honda. It'll do it. And that's what I did. And then we took it into the dealership. He said, "Oh yeah, it's got body damage, whatever." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. How much is the trading?" He's like, "We're gonna give you like $16,000." And I think we only had. I mean, the car I think was 20 something. It was like 21,000 or something, and we had been paying on it for a couple of years already. And it was down. It was down to like 9 grand or something like that. He's like, "No, we'll give you $16,000 for this." I'm like, with the body damage, like, yeah, no, it's minor. People will want this car. People will pay top dollar for this car, and we'll give you the money for it. And I'm like, okay, okay. And then we bought like a $50,000 minivan or a $40,000 minivan. We didn't get all the bells and whistles that time, so $40,000 minivan. That one too. That one too. We drove it for about 4 years, I think it was. My wife had scraped down the side of it at a McDonald's drive-through, and I'm like, lady, what is it with you and wrecking cars? Besides the point, we took it to trade it in. And they're like, oh yeah, it's got that little bit of that's nothing, whatever. We're gonna give you top dollar for that thing. And they're like, okay. And we were below 20 grand on it, paid off, and they were giving us like 25, 27 or something. Pretty dang close, like almost 30 grand. And I was like, okay. And they put us in, I went and bought the new Odyssey. It was the first run. Actually, that car was the first run too. Honda did it in 4 years at the time. And that first Odyssey, we took the first year of the first year. Same with the Civic. It was the first year of the first year of that redesign. And the next Odyssey was the first year of the first year of the redesign. Yeah, put us in $40,000, $50,000 minivan. And that one I kept for, oh geez, almost 10 years. 10 years we kept it. I put it on a lease because the payment was cheaper. And then by the time we finished the lease, what we owed on the car and what the car was worth, refinancing it was easy. There was no negative equity. We had positive equity in it, and went to refinance it, and it was so easy. It was so nice. And all the while, the rest of the world in the car market, they were going out and buying these Chevy things, and the Fords, and the Buicks, and the Oldsmobiles, and the whatever. And then they would, 4 years later, try to go and buy a new car, and then they've got this negative equity that they've got to carry over, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is. If you've done it before, you know what I'm talking about. My brother-in-law at the time, my other brother-in-law at the time, that's what he did. He kept buying Fords, and he had a friend who worked at a Ford dealership, kind of like I had a friend at the Honda dealership. And the guy would put him in something. They put him in a truck, the F-150, which was kind of a disaster. The thing would constantly leak along the roof thing in the wintertime. Like water would just pour in. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. The thing is that, so their first purchase was a Ford Focus. I almost bought one of those instead of the Civic, just because it was a fun looking new car, ZTS or whatever. ZTW is what I wanted. But I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad my buddy talked me out of it, put me in the Civic. And because they went to take that car in, they were in negative equity still after, I think, 4 years, I think was the only time, the only term you could get. It was that far back. Then they put them in an F-150, and they kept that for about a year and a half, had so much trouble with it. They traded it in. And then, he's pushing forward this negative equity. And I think there was like 15 or something $1,000 in this F-150. Then they bought this Explorer. Same guy, patting him on the back, giving him a whole bunch of free stuff, a whole bunch of do the window thing, I'll throw all this in for free, blah 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 blah, and I'll swallow the negative equity up in this new Explorer for you, sort of thing. It had the fold down. You had to put them in the bells and whistles one. It had the fold down side step things, which was actually something cool that I thought Ford did. And so they're whatever, $30,000 at the time. Ford Explorer cost them $45,000. These guys are making these payments on this negative equity that they've been carrying for the last two cars. And I'm going to say three because they ended up getting rid of that Explorer and buying another Ford Focus, a brand new one, Sport Titanium Platinum, whatever it is. I don't know, whatever it was at the time, right? This is in the 2010s era, 2011s era, no, 2013 era, 2013-ish, right? 2015, 2016 maybe. And that little Ford Focus at whatever price it was had, almost $20,000 worth of equity mashed on top of it. And I didn't make sense at the time. Like, I'm like, you guys are struggling for money and you're constantly going through cars and you're constantly putting negative equity on top of blah, 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 blah. You're buying the wrong cars. Go buy a Honda. Go buy a Toyota because you'll be in positive equity when you have to go refinance a car. And people want vehicles. So they can. And I told them my story with the Honda sort of thing. Like, I was constantly in positive equity due to, the resale value of the vehicles. And that became a thing with me where from my teenage years after learning about resale, I'd buy cars that, they had to tick the boxes of, funness, coolness, blah, blah, blah. Some features that I would like in the car, some weirdness that I liked in the car. And, but at the end of the day, when I had to put down money, I'm like, what's the resale on this car? And that would be the deciding factor of whether I bought it or not. And I did that throughout my entire life. That was the advice I gave to people when they were buying cars. They never listened to it. People go out and buy what they would buy. Um, and that went right up until I bought my BMW because I'm like, no, you know what? I'm tired of playing that kind of game, I guess, right? The stuff on the market post pandemic for used cars was non existent. Even dealers had trouble getting used cars. And I think the best things that I saw was a Nissan Sentra R. There's a Honda Civic SIR. I can't remember what it's called, the Veloster. There was a Veloster, and I was like, yeah, that's not gonna have resale, but it'll be fun. And there was tons of BMWs, tons of BMWs. And rather than go out and buy a Nissan Sentra R, Honda Civic SIR, I actually said, you know what? I just want a grown-up car. I want to have a fun car to drive. I do like BMWs. I've driven them before. Other friends have bought them. I just know they don't have resale, and I'll just buy it and drive it until the wheels fall off. That was I'll buy it. I'll keep that car until I'm an old, old, old man, is what I was thinking, right? Every car, I think that, right? I don't think I'm going to be switching this out in a year, right? Every car I buy, I think it's a keeper. I think it's a keeper, but it doesn't always turn out that way. So yeah, resale used to be, and then I got into this Hornet, and I knew it's a mishmash of whatever. As soon as I looked it up on the internet the night before I went and go bought it, oh, it's an Alfa Romeo. Maybe I should go down to Alfa Romeo. You know what? I'm gonna go down to Dodge because I've already been, what was it? Pre-approved on a loan and blah 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 through Dodge. There's a different dealership, but you know what? I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go buy. Saturday, I'm like, no, this is a European car. Blah blah blah, and I'll buy it. I'll drive it. And I'll have fun in it, and it is what it is. I'll keep this until I'm an old man and can't drive anymore. And this will be the car that is rotting in my parking stall at the old folks' home. Basically, right? And I know doesn't have resale. It won't have resale value. None of the cars that do these mixed badge things, they never do. Chevy's done it. Dodge has done it lots of times, like the Dart. I should actually talk about the Dart because I talked to a guy a long time ago who bought a Dodge Dart, and it is the mantra that I say about the Hornet. What he said, I copied and I use. He actually said it's a hoot. It spins its tires everywhere. The car is hilarious. You know, because the car is a fun car. And I kind of did the same thing. I'm like, this car is a gas. It's hilarious. I love it. It spins its tires everywhere. Yeah. This is the same sort of thing, and so it makes me wonder now about those Dodge Darts. Like, I see a lot of them out here right now. In the city, I never see them, but out here in country land, where Dodge and Ford and things are big, like, there's a lot of those out here. I don't see very many Honda Civics. The local dealer, there's a Ford dealer, there's a Dodge dealer. Go over to the next town, there's a Ford dealer and a Dodge dealer and a Chevy dealer. So yeah, there's a Chevy dealer down the road here. Right? There is no Toyota, there is no Lexus, there is no Alfa Romeo, there is no Honda dealership, right? You got to go into the big city for that. So everybody out here drives, one of the big three. And when those companies do these cross mix things, they never sell well. They never resell well. You'll see them listed, and everybody goes, it's too confusing. They can't figure it out. They don't want to buy it. They don't want to buy it. They'd much rather go, oh, Chevy Cruze, I get it. Easy, done. Dodge Hornet, what is that? What is that? Oh no, it's actually not. Oh no, it's Italian. It's out here in the what? No, no, that's not a thing. I'm not going to buy that. There's no resale for these cars because they're confusing. They're confusing, and I knew that. And in the last two cars that I bought, resale went out the window. I'm just like, no, I'm just going to buy the car because they're fun, because I like them, because they do something. That little bit of excitement or that little bit of fizz that you get from whatever it is. I don't care. Like this car is a self-driving feature. Like, I do not want to leave this. I want this car till I die. I really do, because the self-driving thing, I have actually found it to be so helpful. Just as helpful as the steering wheel, just as helpful as that throttle pedal, just as helpful as that brake pedal. That's the self driver assist in this thing. Yeah, it's just as useful as the doors on the car, as the tires. Like, that's what a feature it is. That's what it means to me in this car. I was looking at other Hornets. My daughter's looking for another car, and there's a bunch of Hornets, and there's the regular RT, there's a regular GT, and I'm like, so there's no track pack or anything. I'm like, does it have the driver? Does it have the tech pack? Right? No, no, it's just black top, and it's just this, it's just that. And I'm like, you know, hmm, one of these had a tech pack, I'd probably be talking with you on the phone right now, making a deal on another car. But not the case. Not the case. I'm looking at another Cherokee. I'm looking at Compass, Trailhawk. I'm looking for the the off-roady things, right? Um, it's like, yeah, 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 but they don't self-drive. It's kind of a downer. Anyway, that's besides the point. Resale value was a thing. For me, it isn't right now. And I get the guys who do buy the cars who don't care about resale, because if you can fund it, if you can fund your car passion without caring about depreciation and resale value, then yeah, it's not a thing. But if your car purchases are major financial purchases, then you shouldn't be buying things that don't have good resale. You shouldn't. If at the end of the life of that car, if it gets into an accident and you got to get paid out, and you're a year and a half into a loan, and you're upside down by $10,000 or $15,000, then I mean, like, everybody talks about cars as an investment, and they're not. Cars aren't. Cars are money pits, right? And so all you do with that is lessen the bleed. And you know, that's the advice I used to give a long time ago. Lessen the bleed. You know, you're going to be paying out on it. It's never going to make money for you until it comes time to sell it or put a number to it and get paid out for it. And what you want to be in positive equity on your loan. And the only way to do that is through Subaru, Toyota, Honda. Although now, yeah, people will still do it. The cars are still crappy. The modern versions of these cars, except maybe Subaru, the Toyotas and Hondas, they're absolute crap. They're having real troubles with them. But the market the mysterious market says that they're still valuable, right? People will buy them and they search after them because there's a reliability thing about it and blah blah blah. So even if you buy a new Honda that breaks down and a new Toyota that breaks down, right? Or a Subaru that doesn't break down, or it will sometimes break down, have some weird thing happen to the 4x4 system, you will be in a better position than if you went out and bought a Jeep Compass or Ford Explorer or I don't know. I don't know. I don't look at those because I actually don't care about them. I don't care about Chevys and I don't care about Fords and I don't care about, I don't know, Dodges, even though I'm driving one. I really don't. I don't know. They got some fun vehicles or whatever, but it's all a write off, right? Like if you're gonna go buy something like that, you know it's not gonna have resale. It's not. Maybe a Jeep. Maybe a Jeep has resale. You know, Wrangler or whatever they call them, right? Not the Wagoneers or anything like that, but the Wranglers, like the tried and trues. I don't even know about the Grand Cherokee. I would say, the Wranglers, like those would have resale. They've just got a cult following. That's why, and that's the only reason why. That's my thing on resale. I'll let you go. It's been a half an hour. I got to get to work. See you in the next one.